Hey guys, we're going to be potting up some aloe today. I've got a couple of pots here. Let's actually bring this one into the picture too. We've got a lush, full, very plump aloe. This one might be a little bit heavy in the center here, and then it's got a bunch of pups that it's put out on both sides. And it's still in its old nursery pot, so I figured it's time to move it into something a little bit nicer, especially because it's going to be going inside. We are just pulling that right out of the pot there. And let's see what the roots are doing. It's got tons of babies though, all the way around. It's been putting out new pups. So I'm just gonna work some of that soil free. Don't know how long it's been in there. That's the original pot that I bought it in. And I bought this off of Craigslist. This is the Aloe Barbadensis, which is the medicinal aloe. So you can take cuttings of it. You would normally clip off the whole leaf, and we can do that in a separate video though. But yeah, you can use it on burns, and there's so many different ways to use aloe. You can use it under your eyes, like put a few pieces in the refrigerator, and then apply it under your eyes as an eye cream or eye gel. Aloe is amazing for your skin. You can do facials with it. Under your eyes, those are a couple of my favorite as far as using it on the skin, but you can also eat it too. You can add little pieces to your smoothie, but you just want the gel inside. You don't want to eat any of the green or the yellow kind of sappy gel. When you go to cut it, you'll notice there's a little bit of this yellowness to the gel right wherever you make the cut, and that's called aloin, and that is what makes it bitter. Even though the aloe itself is really soothing and very healthy and nourishing for your skin, the aloin is actually irritating to the skin. You want to clean off any gel that you do cut and get rid of that aloin. You can put it in, you can soak it in water, swish it around in water, or just rinse it. And we'll definitely have to do some videos on that too, because this is something I really missed having in my garden, because out in Maui I used to use a leaf pretty much every single day, and I was really missing it, so we're gonna get back into using our aloe. Okay, so I just cut a piece of the screen. This is just regular window screen. You can buy this in rolls at just about any garden center. I got this at Home Depot or Lowe's, and I just buy a roll of it, and I just cut out little pieces and I place that over my drainage holes, especially if you have large drainage holes. It just helps prevent the soil from escaping through the bottom. Or if you have coffee filters, you can use those. Those work perfectly. And I'll show you the soil I'm using. This is Tank's Pro Cactus and Succulent Mix. It's made up of a base of coconut coir and also pumice. It's super chunky, light, really aerated, and it's really fast draining. So it really helps prevent root rot. Now at this point, you could take the whole plant and jam it in there, babies and all, but I think I might want to remove some of the babies. Let's take a look on this underneath side. Oh right, we got roots on them and everything, ready to go. Look at that. I got scissors here. We're just gonna snip off this old dead leaf, just where it's dried. Okay, we got some more babies coming off there. There's another one. Okay, so that side is free of all the babies. They kind of just wanted to take off on their own. And then we've got a few babies left on this side, so I'll just leave it exactly like that. Okay. Oh, those roots are just wanting to grab onto everything. Take a look and see what's going on this side. Make sure everything's looking good. We've got one baby that fell over, so let's help it. Oh, okay, that baby doesn't want to be in there. Okay, so we just got two babies and the mother plant. Now normally I'd probably use a top dressing, but because this mother plant is putting out so many pups, I'm going to leave the soil bare, and that way it can freely push out new pups out of the soil, and we can get even more aloe. Okay, I'm just going to add a couple handfuls of worm castings, just small handfuls, and this is how I organically feed my houseplants now. Houseplants, outdoor plants, yeah, all my cactus and succulents. This is what I do, and it just takes a little bit, not much at all. And this is what I use in place of like a standard fertilizer. So now when I go to water, all the nutrients from the worm castings is gonna be periodically making its way down into the soil to the roots. Okay, so I'm gonna put this one back inside because it's gonna be a house plant. Yeah, at least for now. It might be a patio plant later on when it warms up again, but for now, this winter it's gonna go inside as a house plant. So I got a pack of these felt stickies, and these are so handy. They come in all different sizes. I got a pack of these at Costco. I'll just take 4 of these and I'm gonna stick them to the bottom of my saucer because I'm gonna be putting it, I'm gonna be putting my aloe on the glass stands behind me. So we'll just stick these on to protect the glass. Okay, there we go. Okay, we've got our freshly repotted aloe, and I usually wait a few days before watering just to allow the roots, any roots that have broken during the repotting process, allow those a few days to kind of dry and heal over, and that helps prevent root rot. So usually springtime is when you do most of the repotting because it's just at the beginning of the growing season for a lot of plants, and that's when they're going to make, you know, real strong roots. They're going to be taken off, growing lots of new lush leaves, and it's just an ideal time to repot then. But if you pot it during another time of year, during its off growing season, it's not going to hurt the plant at all. It's just going to grow slower, and it's going to take a little longer to get established in its new pot is all. Okay, so I was just taking a look at some of the baby aloe, and although they broke away cleanly from the mother plant, I do want to let them go ahead and callus over for just a day or two. So hey guys, welcome back. We're going to be potting up our baby aloe. It's been 3 days. The roots have been healing over beautifully, and they are ready to get into their new little homes. Okay, so all of our baby aloe have some nice plump roots on there, so they are going to take off in no time at all. Okay, I'm going to go with 3 in a pot. So when you're propagating, before you take the babies away from the mother plant, just keep an eye on where the soil level was for them naturally, and just repot it at that same exact level, and you'll be good. A lot of times I like to leave aloe without any top dressing because, you know, they're always pushing out those new pups. But in this case, just to help these stand up, I will top it off with some top dressing just to kind of help them stay stable until they get rooted. So these little stones will give them just enough support while they're getting rooted. You know, that cactus and succulent mix, it can be so light and so fluffy that little tiny plants like this will just fall right over, you know, they won't be able to stay stable and upright. So when figuring out how often to water your aloe, the next step is going to be to understand what sort of lighting you have it in and how fast that's going to be drying out the soil. So if you've got it in a lot of bright light, you've got it in sunshine, it's going to dry out faster than if you have it in mostly shade for most of the day, right? And I guess there is another factor, which is the type of pot you use. If you have a plastic pot or a glazed ceramic pot, something where it's just more sealed and not as porous, it's going to hold the water in, it's going to hold that moisture in for longer than if it's in a super porous terracotta that's, you know, unsealed, and it's going to allow more aeration. You know, it's going to allow that soil to dry out faster. So that's one little thing to consider. So aloe is great to grow indoors as a house plant or outside as a landscape plant. It can thrive in both conditions. It's just going to change how often you water your plant. If you have it indoors, it's getting a lot less light, but you still want to make sure if it is inside that you're giving it as much bright indirect light as possible. And what I mean by indirect light is you don't want it in direct sunlight coming through the window. The window can intensify the sun and it'll cause leaf burn. So you don't want to get your leaves on your aloe sun scorched or sunburned. You'll notice that will happen, or when that happens, the leaves will start turning brown. So if you see the tips on this side here, they're brown, they're dry. So this aloe I had sitting outside here. I was getting ready to pot it up. It was right after I got it, and it ended up getting in the sun and I didn't realize it. I had it on my patio, tucked in the shade just on the other side of this wall, but the sun just came through and I guess it was hitting it in the afternoon and I didn't realize it, and the tips got sunburned. Well, actually not only the tips, this entire leaf was brown. But aloe is very forgiving, so it will come back, you know, like that leaf that was all brown is now turning back to green again. And although the tips are permanently damaged, you know, your aloe, if it's healthy, it's going to keep growing, it's going to keep putting out new leaves, and so those will be gone in no time. I'll also include a clip of aloe that I've seen growing out around Tucson in full sun. And you can see the effect of the brown and the sun scorching a little bit more. One other tip I can give you as far as what to look for. This one you can see has nice plump leaves like those. They're almost like they're gonna burst at the seams. They are so full of water and the aloe gel, and they're really healthy, and they've got a lot of weight to them too. So that one is in very good condition. And then this smaller one, I waited, you know, longer than I should have to pot it up, and it was already in a bone dry pot, so it was really thirsty. And you can see its leaves are pretty concave, so there's no plumpness to those leaves at all. They're very parched. They've been using up their own storage of water to be able to feed the plant and help it survive while it's waiting patiently to get more water, which, don't worry, this one has been watered now. It'll just take a little while to start plumping those leaves back up is all. I'm in zone 9A, and I was also growing aloe in zone 9 to 11 is what I've grown in, because I was in Hawaii before and I was growing tons and tons of aloe out there. And I saw the same thing actually with the sunburned aloe right around the corner from my house. I was growing my aloe in shade, and we were literally one street apart, right? Two big mounds of aloe basically. One had them in their landscape, I had it in huge pots. So my pot was grown in the shade, and it was, you know, lush and green and super plump leaves, and I was able to use it every day, you know, cutting the leaves off. And then right around the corner from us was this little office building, and they had their aloe growing in their landscape, and they had a whole bunch of it, and it was all brown, well, brownish red. It was all sun scorched and it was very dry, so a combination of too much sun, more sun than it can handle, so it was clearly stressed, and it probably wasn't getting enough water too. And then what season it is also going to determine how often to water. So that's season and temperature kind of combined there, along with climate, how dry or humid your climate is. Those are also factors. So during the winter time, if you're growing aloe inside the house, like me for example, I'll have it inside during winter time, and I water it maybe once a month during winter time. And then when summertime comes around, I'm watering it like one to two times a week, I would say, during summertime. But definitely better to err on the side of underwatering rather than overwatering. Underwatering, you won't kill your plant. You're gonna spot the signs of dehydration before it gets to the point where it's in any kind of danger. Whereas overwatering, you're not gonna know what hit it until your plant just like collapses one day and just like breaks apart. And also something else about transferring your plant around to different areas of your house, or maybe if you grow it inside during winter and then you put it outside during summertime or springtime. Once it starts warming up again, I usually move most of my aloes outside onto the patio and let them get acclimated to the sunlight again, which is basically just, you know, slowly getting them used to the sunlight. I'll start them out in some filtered light right in the front here, and they'll get filtered light through the tree. And then you can start slowly pushing them into more morning sun, and then they can take full morning sun. And so my aloe will end up getting a half day of sun in the morning time, and then they'll end up in filtered sunlight, and then afternoon is shade. Because if I have them in any stronger sunlight, especially that afternoon sun, they will get sun scorched here in the desert. And whenever I do water my aloe, I water it deeply enough to where the water will drain through the bottom of the pot. Aside from just watching your plant and getting to know, you know, when the leaves are plump or when they're starting to look dehydrated, just picking up the pot too is a really easy way to see if it needs to be watered. If it's, you know, pretty lightweight and it doesn't feel like there's much, you know, moisture in there still, then go and give it a water. If you're not sure, you know, err on the side of caution and, you know, skip watering that time until you're absolutely sure that it needs it. And just in case you're worried if you've overwatered your aloe plant, just look for signs of yellowing leaves or slightly soft or mushy leaves. That will usually indicate that the water or the plant has been overwatered. And so then just cut back on all watering, just stop entirely and let the plant catch up and sort of recover from that. So to avoid overwatering, you just want to allow the soil to dry out in between waterings. So at least the top couple of inches should go dry, and then you can go ahead and water again. And that time is going to vary depending on where you are in the world, what your climate is, how dry or humid it is, and if the plant is outdoors in sunlight or inside where it's not getting as much bright light. The relationship between light and water, just think of light as being the growth source. That's what's going to create the growth in your plant. The water is the tool or the catalyst that allows the growth and feeds the growth. So when you're giving your plant too much water, it's as if you're trying to force growth where there's not enough light to help promote that growth. So you just want to find that balance. The fastest way to kill an aloe is to have it in low light and be overwatering it. It's going to make it mush out in the center at the base, and that's basically the rotting. It's going to get all mushy and your plant's basically going to just kind of fall apart from the center. So just remember, aloes love to have a lot of bright light, really chunky, light, aerated soil that's fast draining, and they like to be watered deeply but infrequently. So they like their soil to dry out most of the way in between waterings. If you have experience growing aloe, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do because it's a very popular plant for growing indoors or outside, definitely leave your experience down below too, or if you have any extra tips or anything for everyone. It's super helpful for all of us to kind of look through the comments, and don't forget to leave your planting and growing zone. So I'm in zone 9A here in Tucson, and we're at about 2,400 feet elevation. And it's very dry, very arid. So yeah, definitely share your tips, because if you're somewhere where it's further north and the sun's not as intense, you might have different experience or different tips that people will find helpful if they're in the same zone as you or a similar one. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye guys.